An Irish student's display of the Israeli flag at a pro-Palestinian event has sparked international controversy after footage shows he was violently confronted and forcibly removed from the venue. Let's take a look.
Someone who has represented Hadash on the communist side, you also hate Israel because it's a capitalist success story. And it's very prosperous. And it's fantastic. Israel will exist, prosperous and free, long after we are gone. Long after we are gone. And I want to ask, oh yeah, who all you like? Who all you like? I'm a great time. Don't you touch me, kid. Don't you touch me. My flag's on. I'm a free speech speaker. I listen to I'm not.
That was intense. The incident attracted worldwide attention and even condemnation from a member of the Israeli government. To tell us the full story, I'm delighted to say that the student in the video, Jamie O'Mahony, I hope I said that right, joins me now in the studio. Welcome, Jamie. Gets a bit tasty there.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting to be liked, obviously, when I went into the room, but to have a reaction like that, and as people, well, not in that, but as people could see elsewhere, the sheer vitriol and fury in his face. You can see the eyes are wide, the teeth are baring. Yeah. It's extraordinary to see the sight of the blue and white.
And he's a man seemingly in his 60s. Obviously, we had to blur the video, but yeah, when you watch the clip online, it just seems is he a manager or something? He's a professor, or
he's an academic,
yeah,
at the University of Limerick.
And then he sees that flag, and he just absolutely goes for it. So you went there to ask questions. It seems like you were asking reasonable questions as to pointing out the hypocrisy there. Even that seemed to upset people, just to even push back in any way, in a reasonable argument.
So I'd seen about 2 weeks before the event the Ireland-Palestine Solidarity Campaign. They're a very radical but very large organisation within Ireland on this issue. And I saw that they were hosting Elan Pape in Limerick, my home city. And I'd followed him for a couple of years, Elan Pape, not out of admiration, obviously. But I bought and read one of his books last year to understand what these people think of it. He is Israeli, and yet he doesn't believe the state should exist. And also, it's probably wrong to call him a historian, given he has said in interviews in the past that he doesn't believe in objective facts. He believes in competing narratives and ideologies trying
Classic
to win.
postmodernist, basically.
Exactly. So essentially, I put together a plan of what I wanted to say to him. We had a distinct strategy, me and the other two guys that went, of not behaving like the other side do. When there's an event that they don't like, we went in peacefully, quietly. We waited through the 45-minute lecture. And then when it came to the Q&A, when there can be a discussion of opinions, ideally, I put my hand up and I stated a question about, firstly, him using the privileges that Israel as a Western-oriented nation provides, and he wanted to use these exact privileges, like freedom of speech, and to criticise the state, etc.
Which don't exist in the rest of the Middle East.
Exactly. He wants to use those exact privileges that Israel uniquely affords him to bring about the destruction of that state. And he's very pro-violence. He says openly, by any means necessary, you know. And then I know that he hates Israel because it's a capitalist success story. He ran for Hadash to get into the Knesset, which is essentially the Israeli Communist Party. And I mentioned that to him as well. And then as I was coming to, I was already facing booing and shouts, whatever. So I said, look, I have the Israeli flag in my pocket. Here's the moment to, have it on display proudly and ultimately challenge the total monopoly on discourse that they have in Ireland at the moment. And then you saw the way the guy reacted, and then I was removed from the venue.
Do you want to save a boatload of cash this summer, wherever you have a trip planned? The one thing you're going to need is access to the internet and on the go. And you can do that easily with Saily. Hit the link in the description to get 15% off your first eSIM plan ready for your trip so you can browse to your heart's content. Saily gets you a local SIM card you can use when traveling so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a message or check the latest news. Now, they've got plans in over 160 countries, 8 regions, so pretty much everywhere Wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? All you've got to do is this. Hit the link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan. You can choose an amount of data and time frame that suits you best. And then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. And if that wasn't enough, Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once. So when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and boom, you're back watching me on GV News. I'll be using a Saily SIM on my next holiday because it's actually faster than some of the hotel Wi-Fis. You can get unlimited data if you want, so you can scroll away to your heart's content. And when you leave the hotel, you don't have to do that annoying thing of Wi-Fi hopping because you've got constant connectivity wherever you go. And they've got 24/7 support as well, and a full refund policy if your eSIM isn't compatible. So get sorted for your next trip. Download Saily using the link in the description below. And if you use the code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us. So click the link, download Saily, and use the code NEWS at checkout.
So there's an interesting sort of a side part to this story where you actually know the man, right, who assaulted you.
Yeah, former family friend. He would have been around to our house for dinner parties when I was younger. I used to play with his son when we were about 8 or 9 years old because we were of a similar age. He taught the language class at which my parents met 25 years ago, which is, yeah, it's just pretty weird to think about.
And did he speak to you afterwards? What, did he recognise eventually that he did know you and calm down?
So in the video, I'm shouting, "I know you," but I think he maybe recognised me after it spilled out onto the street outside. And I was actually shouting at him at that stage, "I thought you were better than that," because that's not the way you expect a seemingly
it's a flag.
Seemingly upstanding member of society to behave when they encounter someone who disagrees with them. But no, he never reached out. He wouldn't have had my number, but he'd have had the numbers definitely of both my parents. He knows the house, etc. But not a word. He probably feels like he was in the right, you know. He probably has all the people who were there backing him and telling him that he was great. And there's certainly an element of mob mentality. I mean, like, he knew in his mind that he had the backing of the 70 plus people that were in that room. And so in that moment, he felt so emboldened to just launch himself at me physically. It's exactly like I'd have read about even in Lord of the Flies when I was only 14, 13 years of age.
It is incredible to see it played out, to see that mob mentality, and also to see the hypocrisy there when we're meant to have free speech. There's nothing wrong with, they might disagree with you, that's totally fine, but to see it going immediately to violence, to be triggered in that way. But also before that, I think it was very telling how you saw all these people trying to boo you down. And of course, and it's interesting that you went there as to sort of counter what we see at other protests when there are pro-Israeli meetings where the tactics aren't to sort of wait politely and ask a question. It's very much to disrupt it and to shut it down from the get-go. Mm-hmm.
And that's the way Ireland has been going, and the UK to some degree, but at least in the UK there is more of a pro-Israeli cohort of people, and there is reasonable opposition, for example, within the House of Commons, the House of Lords. In Ireland, it's all one-way traffic. You know, that's how we have a situation where all throughout last year there was Hamas, PFLP and Hezbollah flags being waved openly on our streets, and the Minister for Justice and the police and the general public, no one really batted an eyelid, no one raised concerns, and it's this. But it's a symptom of the constant rhetoric that's being thrown around by predominantly, I would say, the political class, and then behind them you have media and academia, and even other, you know, groups within society. So you have like Teachers for Palestine, you have GPs, and then you've loads of actions by the state over the last year that really emboldened people. So, for example, opening an embassy in Tehran in only September last year, less than 12 months after they were responsible for funding the worst attack on Jews in the history of the Israeli state. The recognition of a faux Palestinian state last May 2024 without defined borders, government or a capital city. joining South Africa at the International Court of Justice genocide case.
Trying to rewrite the word genocide.
Exactly. And then Ireland, which is, basically a bit of a lapdog for the EU in Brussels, then criticising the EU in recent weeks for not being anti-Israel enough. And then the latest abhorrent form of anti-Israel sentiment within Ireland, I would say, is the prohibition on the importation of goods bill. PIGS is the acronym for it, that wants to ban any trade with Jewish businesses within Judea and Samaria or the West Bank. And it's going to be the first piece of legislation, if passed. Hopefully the Department of Foreign Affairs or the Minister will see sense. I know Jim Risch of the American Senate Foreign Affairs Committee has commented on it.
This is self-harm for Ireland. That's what's so crazy, is that America are not happy with that. And also you sort of think that Ireland's got some issues to deal with itself. Focusing on this conflict abroad and something like that, which is going to have no impact on Israel or on the war in Gaza, it seems like an incredible thing to lose your political capital with America.
That's exactly it. We're sacrificing ourselves on the altar of Palestinianism, this new, almost state religion.
The omnicause.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about you. You're not Jewish.
No.
Right? So, we'd be very happy to have you. Strapping young man like yourself. Be good to the gene pool. But, and you got all your hair. But what took you on this journey then?
So I suppose it started a number of years ago. My father had a Jewish friend, which unfortunately isn't really the norm in Ireland just because the population is so small. But things more so developed once I turned 12 and into my teenage years. So I spent a good bit of time living in Vienna. It's a city very dear to me. I spend a lot of time there. And so when I was 12, we lived there, and we lived very near the old Gestapo building. And then you also have on the side of many, many buildings around the city, you have these Stolpersteine, as they're called. They're these little plaques on the side of buildings indicating the names and dates of people who were taken out of their homes by the Nazis. So you really are suddenly immersed in that history.
Yeah, it makes it real, as
Exactly.
opposed to something you see in school books or something. It's part of the history out there.
Exactly. And as a teenager then, I became interested in geopolitics. Just after my 17th birthday, I suppose, during the May 2021 Gaza war, I took an interest in Israel, began to investigate why my own country was obsessed with this faux national identity. People should even check the flag of the Arab Federation of Iraq and Jordan, founded in 1958 between King Faisal and King Hussein. It's the same flag that the PLO adopted 6 years later, But that's just a minor example. But essentially, I visited Israel with my parents in 2022. And
then, of course, when you actually go out there, you see that it's not this colonialist, white supremacist state, but actually the majority of people are brown and black and from all over the world.
And that ultimately there's an amazing quality of life, and it's a state that cares for its own citizens so much.
And it's not an apartheid. It's 20% of the population are Muslim Arabs, Arab Muslims, and full equal rights. But coming back to Ireland, do you think it's because I've just been living online and seeing friends of mine who are Irish, and just the rhetoric coming out of there is just increasingly hateful and extreme. And some people say it's the most anti-Semitic place in Europe.
I think that's reasonable to say. It's extraordinary the way things have developed in Ireland over the last few decades, but particularly since October 7th. So it is a legacy of the relationship between the IRA and the PLO. That's where it comes from in the 60s and 70s. And unfortunately, it's bled down into mainstream society since then. It just since the war, Ireland has decided to take on these extreme anti-Israel stances, I would say almost being led so by our president, Michael D. Higgins, who, for example, in January, he spoke at a Holocaust commemoration ceremony, despite protests from an actual Holocaust survivor, Tommy Reichenthal, who asked him not to speak. He went anyway, and he made it about Gaza.
He also had a conspiracy about how Jews had leaked a letter, his letter from, when actually he put it out himself.
He wrote a love letter to Masoud Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, last summer. And then when it was exposed by the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs as, look, this guy loves us, he then just simply pulled it out of the air that the Israeli embassy had leaked it. He also pulled out of the air the fact that, as he says, that Israel wants settlements in Egypt. It's absolutely ludicrous. He also met with the chief rabbi, and who spoke to him, voiced concerns over concern amongst the Jewish community in Ireland about anti-Semitism.
It's a tiny community. I mean, it's
About
small in the
2,000,
UK. Yeah, 2,000 people.
He then went out the next day and said there's no anti-Semitism in Ireland, despite having met the chief rabbi only the day before. And then also a thing that it really needs to be mentioned, and it saddens me that no one in the political class will speak about, is that one of our own was murdered on October 7th. Kim Damty, a young woman murdered at the Nova Festival. I saw her picture when I visited there recently. And then we had Emily Hand as well, who was an 8-year-old girl who was kidnapped and thankfully released in a hostage exchange.
And this is just not talked about. People don't know about this. The people they're supporting are murdering Irish. It's like when they're supporting Hezbollah, and Hezbollah responsible for Irish peace.
Private Sean Rooney
yeah.
was killed by Hezbollah in 2022. Yeah.
So, do you think that Ireland or the Irish population are in any way cottoning on to how dangerous this rhetoric is and how deep the problem goes? Have you seen any changes yourself? Are there other people who are standing up to it?
There are those of us who are trying to be the change. I set up a pro-Israel society in my university back in March, and I was then removed from my position as chair of the debate society for that. But unfortunately, you have people like Rachel Moselle, but unfortunately, generally, no. People in Ireland think that when they're called anti-Semitic, they turn around and their response is to say, oh, look, no, it's not anti-Semitic to criticise Israel, and that's it. And they don't delve any deeper into any sort of self-reflection on the issue.
Do you, and I even heard your girlfriend broke up with you? Or is that just you just say, oh, it's because I'm pro-Israel, but really it was because, you didn't change your socks?
It certainly had to do with the society that I set up back in March, yeah.
Really, and how are you finding the treatment from other students? Are you kind of persona non grata?
It's back in my university to some degree, yeah. Probably, I mean, some people stuck by me, and I really respect and appreciate that. But yeah, generally, it's a very unpopular thing to do. Setting up that society was. Yeah, I mean, the university went into meltdown over it, which is really something else to witness. But look, it was a learning experience, and it exposed, as I thought anyway, a lot of hatred. I mean, the amount of, as I say, sheer vitriol that we received for standing with an Irish flag next to an Israeli flag and a photo of the Bibas family, and that just inspired so much hatred from these people, and it spoke pretty badly. For what they believe and how they behave, but for myself, it generally instilled, I'd say, resilience. So it meant that this time around, when that video came out, I was able to just kind of ignore and laugh off people who, hate me and whatever. But yeah, it certainly comes with negativity.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that there's a price to be paid to take a stand. But I believe at the same time you very much exposed the hate, just showing an Israeli flag to get that kind of physical response. Horrible to go through, but at the same time they showed themselves up. And but thank you for coming and sharing your story. Thank you for doing what you're doing in Ireland.
Thank you so much.
Jamie O'Mahony, I hope I said that right there. I'll also say that he's huge, so try your luck when he gets the flag out next time. GB News contacted the Irish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign for comment, but did not receive a response. The chair of the organisation, Zoe Lawler, did tell the Limerick Times, obviously it was planned, Mr. O'Mahony, I'm sorry, that was racist on me.
Sorry, a lot of Irish people, a lot of non-Irish people.
Now there's more Irish people going to hate Jews because of my terrible pronunciation. I apologise.
The Limerick leader, I think, by the way.
Limerick leader said in an online statement that he went there to protest against Elan Pape. They were allowed in the venue in good faith. This is all to distract what's going on in Palestine and what Israel is doing, as we've seen with Kneecap at Glastonbury. Anything but what is going on is the story. Instead of people talking about the Professor Pape said on Saturday, we end up talking about this. Well, yes, we did.